Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today, we're going to go into the book of Psalms, the 76th chapter. To the chief musician on Neginoth, a psalm or song of Asaph. In Judah is God known. His name is great in Israel. In Salem also is his tabernacle and his dwelling place in Zion. It says here, Zion, right, which is another name also for Jerusalem, right? That's ultimately where the Lord set up his temple, but it's also a reference to Israel, okay? And that's where the Lord dwells, among Israel. They break, it says here, there break he the arrows of the bow, the shield, and the sword, and the battle, Selah, okay? And that's the Lord, defending Israel, right? It says there he has broken the fiery arrows of the enemy, the shields and swords and weapons of war. Thou art more righteous, or Slakia, thou art more glorious and excellent, more than the mountains of prey, right? Referring to Zion. Okay, it says here, you are glorious and more majestic than the everlasting mountains. The stout-hearted are spoiled. Okay, and who are the stout-hearted? That can be applied to Esau. All right, they are the stout-hearted. And in fact, let's go real quick to the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 20. Right, it says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, that other represents America, right? Which is Esau's, is part of Esau's kingdom, right? That's like the heart of his kingdom. So it exemplifies Esau. It says here, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth speaking very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. You see that? So here, as it says, it calls them stout-hearted. The stout-hearted are spoiled. And how are they spoiled? Through the judgment of the Lord. They have slept, and none of the men of might have found their hands. Here it says, our boldest enemies have been plundered. They lie before us in the sleep of death. No warrior could lift up a hand against us, because our defense is in the Lord. Right, in verse 6, it says here, at thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both the chariot and horse are cast into a deep sleep. Okay, and also, just like the Lord did, in ancient Egypt, he's going to do it now, right? It says here, right, both the horse and the chariot are cast into a deep sleep, which is death. And the Lord is going to do that same thing. That's why it says in Isaiah 31, not to trust in horses, and go down to Egypt for help, because they're vain. Okay, our power is in Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai. It is the rebuke of God, right, the God of Jacob, that destroys the chariots and horses of our enemies. Verse 7, it says, even thou, art to be feared, and who may stand in thy sight when once thou art angry? No one, right? In fact, the scriptures say, let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, verse 11. See what we got here. Right, it says here, the Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? See? So as it says here, even thou art to be feared. Of course the Lord is to be feared. And who may stand in thy sight when once thou art angry? When the Lord is angry, nobody can stand in his sight. Verse 8, thou didst cause judgment to be heard from heaven. The earth feared and was still, right, at the judgment of the Lord. Verse 9, when God arose to judgment to save all the meek of the earth, Selah. All right, and when is that? Right, who are the meek of the earth? The meek of the earth are Israel, right? And that starts with the elect. And guess what? The Lord is going to rise to judgment, right, when he sends Yahweh Shai back, and that's going to quiet the earth. Okay. Verse 10, it says here, surely the wrath of man shall praise thee, the remainder of wrath shalt thou restrain. Let's read that here in the NLT. It says, human defiance only enhances your glory, for you use it as a weapon. Okay? Let's get a quick precept. See what we got here. This is Romans chapter 9, verse 17. See this? It says here, and this is an example, right? For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for the same purpose have I raised thee up. And what was it? Right? What did the Lord do to Pharaoh? He hardened his heart to make him what? To make him defiant. So that he can do what? That I might shew my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. So as we just read, right, human defiance only enhances your glory, for you use it as a weapon. That was an example of that, right? Even with Pharaoh. Okay, verse 11 says here, vow and pay unto the Lord your God. Right, if you vow unto the Lord, make sure you pay it. Scriptures tell you, don't defer to pay your vow unto the Lord. It's better that you didn't vow it at all. Let all that be round about him bring presents unto him that ought to be feared. Right, basically to bring, tribute unto him, to serve him. And really, the presents the Lord delights in us are the works of righteousness. Verse 12, he shall cut off the spring of princes. He is terrible to the kings of the earth. Right, and that's what, as the scriptures say, right, that the Lord is going to rule them with a rod of iron. Right, as potters, shall they be broken. See? So that brings us to the end of the book of Psalms, the 76th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.